I'm going to talk, before I read my statement, I want to talk about one more thing. When we look at marginalized communities, I think sex workers and the homeless community have a lot in common. Law enforcement refers to us as NHI for no human involved. Society is stigmatized. When we've read some of the things in Provo Journal lately about Kennedy Plaza being a combat zone and everyone's begging for money and smoking cigarettes as if smoking cigarettes somehow caused you to be homeless. It's pretty problematic that these are the people that are advocating for those populations and they're highly stigmatizing them and abusing them. But I want to talk a minute about state violence. Not only is criminalizing sex workers and homeless people by ordinances an act of violence towards these populations, and all the research that shows the majority of the abuse comes by hands of the police. I want to highlight that over the last few years, we've had over 1,000 U.S. cops fired for sex crimes, and half of those sex crimes were against children. 97% of all sexual assault on children happens by someone the child knows and not on Backpage. So what we've seen is all these trafficking NGOs getting hundreds and thousands of dollars to claim they're going to rescue us, but when they meet a sex worker that doesn't want to say she's a victim and she's empowered, they become hostile. When we see organizations going along with police to do raids, the people that they're trying to help no longer trust them. If you need to bring the police to offer me a service, and a lot of these are fake services. You know, we know there's no housing. There are no jobs that pay a living wage. So when you're running around and all you basically do is have a list of shelters and food banks. But actually I wrote this statement I wanted to read real quick. I want to talk about memorials and obituaries for a minute. Usually an obituary describes a person that has passed away. It also includes loved ones that were left behind. It usually includes a person's accomplishments, and it often includes the person's ties to their community. However, society and the media haven't been too very kind to sex workers. Usually the mentioning of a sex worker occurs when they've been arrested, murdered, or a victim of violence. Rarely does the media bother to describe them as people. Sex workers are mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, cousins, and loved ones. They shop at the same stores, and their kids attend the same schools. Many of them have achieved a lot in their lifetimes, and sadly these accomplishments are left out of the conversation. Once a whore, always a whore. Bad women get what they deserve. Society has stigmatized sex workers and pushed them to the edges of society. Sex workers are often seen as some human, and law enforcement refers to sex workers and homeless people as NHI for no human involved. The media often stigmatizes and disrespects sex workers. Rarely do these publications show any compassion for a situation, and instead they reinforce this irrational notion that people are somehow at fault for poverty and violence. It becomes a circus with people passing judgment on the less unfortunate, using blame to stay in the problem rather than support solutions. Just pull yourself up from your bootstraps. I guess it's easier for people in power to say, you know, the lucky ones. All these actors contribute to stigma, violence, and human rights violations to marginalized populations who are vulnerable. It's easy for them, for those in powerful positions, to bully and discriminate. The U.S. government has never been known to stand up for oppressed civilians. The government plays an actor of the bad parent who refuses to take responsibility for creating a system that has failed so many. They stay on course with this rhetoric, and a majority of society follows suit. When it came to Native Americans, African Americans, women fighting for their right to vote, and LGBTQ, we had to sue the government for these rights. So why is society waiting around for the government to acknowledge the human rights of sex workers and other marginalized populations? So in a minute we're going to read our list. There was 132 sex workers murdered globally, 50 of them in the United States. So we're going to read the list of the 50 in the United States, but I would like to end with the quote that we remember. It's time to change the social perception that she wasn't a person, she was a prostitute. No one wanted to feel a sense of community or sameness with her. She was something other than us, and therefore we don't need to feel fear, grief, or the fact or the manner of her death.